So I want you to answer this one question. If you could go back to your teenage years or your young adult years, 15 to 23, 25, and you would ask yourself if you can turn that dial on your confidence up from a 60 to a 75, or you're managing your anxiety from a 45 to a 70, or maybe it's just being more decisive with whatever it is that you're looking to do. Do you think you would be more successful where you are today? And we have to understand that there are certain skills and techniques that we could have learned when we were younger, but we just didn't have the tools. We didn't have the knowledge. Maybe we didn't have the insight or the teachers, whoever it was, to teach us these ideas. So teaching our young adults is going to be so crucial and can really change people's lives. It's one of the things I've been noticing while working with the adults that I've been working with. And I've spoken to hundreds of adults over the past 2 or 3 years, one-on-one, on Zoom, trying to figure out what's going on in their lives, trying to help them get back on track. But what I've noticed is that there's certain patterns that keep coming up. And it's why I started my new program for young adults, the Next Gen Navigator, nextgennavigator.com, that's my plug. And what I do is I work with them to help them build the skills, whether it's in their confidence, their self-esteem, their decision-making, their anxiety, their relationships. There's so many different areas. We have a list of 40 different topics that we customize a program for them to help them work on the things that they're looking to work on. And the reason why it's so important and so key is because we all have the ability to work on this. And it's funny when adults reach out to me like, Bennett, can I take your program? Because they understand that for them too, even though they're older, they still have the ability to change. They still have the ability to step into their lives. So today I want to talk about a few different areas that we can start to work on in our own personal lives and try to teach our young adults these tools and these techniques. Because if we can start to shift and try to change them for them, it's going to make a huge difference, not just for them today, but they're going to be able to have the tools to work on it later on. It's the difference between giving them a fish or teaching them how to fish. And today I want to teach you how we can help our young adults learn to fish. And it all really started when I was a senior in high school. You see, I was about 30 feet above the snow, and I couldn't help but think about what was going on the past 3 days, and I was so grateful. You see, I was on the West Coast skiing with my brother, and we were on the chairlift. And on the chairlift, I am petrified. I hate heights, just being dangling there, and I would always just look straight. I would never look down, but I noticed something different. I noticed that there weren't as many people on the slope. It was the end of the day. It was getting a little icy. And I knew that, you know what is it that I can start to do? What is it that I could do to make sure that I am going to be able to do this run, this last run that we're going to have, and be successful at it? And as I got off the chairlift, there was a little bit of a different vibe. There was a little bit going on that I didn't really know, what was happening. It was a little colder, a little gloomier. It was grayer skies, and it felt a little something was a little off. And as we go to the slope that we're going to go down, my brother and I, we end up going to the slope, and I get my skis to the end of the slope. I was an average skier, but over the past 3 days skiing on the West Coast, it's a little harder out there. I really built up my confidence. But as I got to this slope that I recently just did, it was the hardest slope since the trip began, and my skis were above the edge of the mountain. And looking down at this mountain, it was, to me, it looked like it was a 90-degree angle. It probably was a 90-degree angle, but it was very close. My skis were like over the ledge, and I'm like, how do I even start to get onto the mountain? And I was thinking, like, what am I supposed to do? My brother saw that I was hesitating, and he's like, Bennett, are you sure you want to do this? Like, we don't have to do this. We could do another mountain. Like, it's totally fine. Like, we'll do an easier one. It's getting a little icy end of the day. I'm like, no, like, I want to do it. I just need a minute. Let me just take a breath. And I ended up taking a breather, and I started to pump myself up and get really excited, start to talk myself up into being able to do it. And I clap my hands, ready to go. We get to the edge. My brother said, I'm going to wait at the top, make sure everything's okay, and then, I'll jump back in to make sure that things are going. He was a lot better than me. He's really good at skiing, and I just wanted to make sure that he was going to be able to be there. And I get down my first time, and I'm trying to go down sideways down the mountain, and as I try to make my first turn, my knees lock up, and I know how to fall, and I just fall against the mountain. Being a skier, you have to learn how to fall, and it's really important because sometimes you might not be able to turn, and you don't want to fall off a cliff, so therefore you have to learn how to fall. And I stopped myself from getting into the trees, and I fell down. I'm like, it's going to be a lot harder than I think. And my brother ends up coming back, and he comes down to me. He's like, all right, let me help you turn around. Everything okay? I'm like, yeah, it's fine. I just a little nervous. I'm going to be fine. And I start getting back the other way. And my brother says, I'm going to give you, wait till you get comfortable, and then I'll slide, I'll ski down past you. And as I'm going back the other way, I end up making a turn and then going back and making another turn. And my game plan was very simple. Stay as parallel to the mountain so I don't pick up any speed, and as close as the mountain. So if I need to fall, I'm already practically touching the mountain, and that's how steep it was. And as I'm going back and forth, I'm doing pretty well. And my brother ends up telling me, he's like, okay, Benny, like you're good. And he ends up like zooming down the mountain. And after my 5th or 6th time turning, I realized that there was a huge patch of ice in the middle of the mountain. And I'm going over this patch of ice, and my legs fly up underneath me. And I start to fall. And not just I start to fall, when my skis pops up, it starts to fly up. It like got stuck on the top. And I'm just there, and I end up like putting my hands in the mountain, and I'm just hanging on this mountain. This mountain that there weren't so many people going down. And I'm just there, and I'm like, what do I do now? I hit my hip really hard, so I was like, I knew I was going to get a bruise. But like, I'm stuck. My brother is about 40 to 50 feet down the mountain, and he notices that I'm not coming. He looks up, he sees me there, and he's like, probably so annoyed, so frustrated. He's like, all right, Bennett, I'm coming up to help you. And I was like, he's coming up to help me? Like, how is he going to get up here? Like, he has to go down the rest of the mountain, take the chairlift back up, then come down to get me, and then what is he going to do? And I'm like, he must have said like he's going to get some help. And to my shock, 2 or 3 minutes later, I see him starting to climb up this mountain. Literally with his skis in the side of the mountain, with his hand on the mountain, starting to climb up this mountain, taking about 3 to 4 inches of steps every single time. Remember, he has to go like 40 to 50 feet just to get to me. And he finally gets to me. He's like, are you okay? Are you injured? I'm like, no, I just have a bruise. I'll be fine. And he's like, where's your other ski? Like, while I'm holding on, like I look up, point with my face, say like, oh, it's up there. Sorry about that. And he's like, looks at me, he's like so disappointed, like, oh gosh, another 15 to 20 feet I gotta climb. He climbs the other 15, 20 feet, gets my ski, comes back down to me. And our plan was simple: get me to the side of the mountain where the snow was softer, get back on my skis, and get down the mountain as quickly as possible in one piece. And we end up doing that. We get down to the mountain. And at the end of the day, we got back to the cabin, and we're trying to figure out like our schedule for the next day. We had one more day on the slopes, and what I was telling him is, I think I'm gonna take a break. Like, I don't think I'm gonna go the 4th day. It's 3 days is a lot for me, and you know what? Like, I had enough skiing. Like, I had a great time, but looking back at it now, even though it's been so many years, the reason why I didn't want to do it is because my confidence was shot. I got hit so hard. I thought I was doing so well, and then something happened, and I got totally thrown off, literally thrown off, and I couldn't bounce back. And I look at that as, is that okay? Is that okay that I wasn't able to bounce back? Is that okay I wasn't able to have some adversity and still move forward and take action? Even if it wasn't going to be going skiing the whole day. But what about a little bit? Maybe like half a day. Maybe do like different slopes that were going to be easier. But to get myself back on that horse. And it started getting me think, what are the tools? What are the skills that I personally need? And this is why it's so important to have the skills. Because in life, we all know that things are going to happen to us. Situations are going to happen. Experiences are going to happen, good and bad and ugly. And we have to figure out, how is it that we're going to be able to bounce back? How is it we're going to be able to have that confidence to move forward? To be able to have the right tool at the right time to move forward. And over the past couple of years, I've been collecting these tools. And it's been so helpful for my own productivity, my own personal growth, to be able to say, hey, this is happening. I'm stressed out. What is it that I can do? I'm getting nervous. How can I handle that? I'm anxious. What is it that I could do now? And recognizing that and putting it into a framework, teaching people this framework has been so crucial in terms of having people live the lives that they want. And it's why I work with young adults mostly. I still work with adults, but mostly working with young adults, because it is so key when it comes to the success that we want, the ability to move forward with what we want. Because if we can have the tools when things happen to us, then we'll be able to really function. We'll be able to really succeed in life and move whatever it is that we want to be doing. So we're going to talk about 3 different topics right now, 3 different ideas where we can start to focus on to really learn the tools that we can start to have when it comes to those different areas. We're going to be speaking about confidence. We're going to be speaking about decision making. And we're going to be speaking about relationships. And different areas. There's so many more. There's so many, like I said earlier, I have a list of 40 different topics, of 40 different areas that we can be working on that are going to be able to help us move forward. So if you have any questions, you can put them in the chat right now. I'll hopefully get them throughout the event. But I want to try to keep this as short as possible because I know people are always busy, and we want to keep this moving and grooving. So that being said, so one day I get a DM on my LinkedIn, and it's Mark. You see, Mark and I have not been in touch for about 8 years, and I was Mark's counselor in camp. But Mark tells me, he's like, Ben, I heard you're doing this coaching thing. I need some help. I'm like, Mark, you were a great guy back then. I'm sure you're still a good guy. What's going on? He says, okay, let's jump on a call. We end up jumping on a call an hour after that. And on the call, Mark tells me that he has been having confidence issues. He has been working in a specific business and industry in the real estate world, and he is a broker, and he's making money based on his commissions, and his commissions are based on sales. And he said that he lost his confidence in his selling. And he told me, he's like, I really need help building up my confidence again. I was like, what happened? He's like, I was at a conference and we were hosting, his company was hosting, and they had a bunch of people there. And somebody came to the conference and ended up making fun of Mark in front of everybody. And he said it really killed his confidence. And because it killed his confidence, he said for the past couple of months, he has not been on his game. He has not been able to make as many sales as he usually does. You see, finding out more information about Mark's company, Mark is a partner in a company with another man, and they have a company that they have been doing $500 million in sales. Yes, Mark is in his young 20s, and they are doing $500 million. That is $500 million in sales just last year. So for Mark to say that he's having a confidence issue with sales is a big deal, because Mark is not just dealing with any small money, he's dealing with big stuff. So what happened is that he ended up saying, you know what, we have to work on it. And I said, Mark, we're going to do it, and I guarantee we could do it. And within about 3 weeks, Mark is starting to get back into the groove. And it was interesting because about 4 months after we started working together, we worked for 3 months together. And by then he was like totally off, totally fine. And month 4 after we worked together, he sends me a picture. And it is that he is the #1 broker in his state for that month. And if you can think about that, like in the United States, it's not like just this little town or this country. He was the #1 broker in his state, and he got awarded by the industry for that. And it was something that was so powerful and so important to understand, because so many times when it comes to confidence, and when we're trying to teach our young adults, how does confidence work, is that we want confidence before we do anything else. But we have to realize that before confidence, we have to understand that it really takes courage to step into the moment. And if we can start to realize, hey, you know what? It's not confidence that I need right now. I need the courage right now to step into something. We're giving ourselves permission to move forward and to take advantage of the scenario. So if somebody is looking to give a presentation, if somebody's looking to speak, if somebody's looking to do an Instagram live, right? And they're getting nervous and they want to be confident to be able to step up and to be able to perform the best that they can, they're only going to be able to get that confidence after they do it a while. Confidence is a result of doing something. But what they need is they need permission to be able to take the action. And the action that they're taking is being courageous in the moment, to have that courage to take the action that they want. And it's the first shift we need to understand when it comes to confidence. And you might say, okay, Bennett, but how do we build our self-esteem, self-worth, which are two totally different things, by the way. So when it comes to our self-worth, when it comes to our self-esteem, we have to realize that we all have an ideal schedule in our head. We all have things that we know we should be doing and things we probably should not be doing. And if we can start to understand, hey, if I start doing the things that I know I should be doing or want to be doing, I'm going to feel a lot better about myself because I'm living up to my standard, my potential. And if I'm doing the things that I know I shouldn't be doing, maybe I'm on Instagram a little too much, or maybe, I'm not focusing on my work or my family or whatever it is that we're looking to not do. And if we can start to focus that the other way, then guess what? We can start to work on our self-esteem and our self-worth, because our worth, the way we think about ourselves, is going to be so important. And one of the questions that I ask all my clients when it comes to the self-worth is like, where would you rate yourself? And I would ask you that question too. Where is it that you would rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 100 in terms of really believing in yourself, trusting yourself, your own self-worth? And it's so important because there are so many different factors. If somebody is constantly looking for approval from somebody else, and probably not you, because of course that's not you, but if somebody can really understand what's going on with the difference between their what it is that they want and what is that they don't want, then they can start to work on not needing approval from other people, and that could be so precious. Okay, somebody asked a question, can I describe the difference between both? Yeah, sure. So self-esteem comes after we have done certain things and we have certain skills and we have a certain self-esteem that we're built up, but it's based more on results, where self-worth is an inherent value that we give to ourselves. So my self-worth is, it doesn't matter what's been happening in my life. I love myself. Like, things could be going great or things could be going poor, but regardless, I have a self-worth and I believe that I'm worth something. Self-esteem is the difference of saying, hey, you know what? I have really high self-esteem because I was able to accomplish X, Y, and Z. I was able to push myself and really do these things. So it's really knowing the difference between the two of them. And practically, I don't know if it really makes such a difference, but I think just mentally, just so we know what words we're saying, it's really, really important when it comes to that. And you have to also understand when it comes to confidence, there's confidence in different areas. So if I would ask you, like, what's one area that you're confident in? Like, you know, and some people are like, oh, well, I'm not confident in anything. Like, classic person who says that. Well, like, do you know how to tie your shoes? Like, are you confident in tying your shoes? And most people are like, yeah, I might be confident tying my shoes. And understanding that, okay, so at least we're confident in one area. But it could be that we're confident in one area and not confident in another area. And as long as we're looking to grow and become somebody in a specific area, that's going to be the thing that's going to really help us move forward. So that's my spiel about confidence. If you have any questions, you could ask them now, or you could DM me and I'll be happy to answer your questions. The next is decision making. And when it comes to decision making, I have a whole program about decision making in general, but we have to understand that when it comes to decisions that we're looking to make, we're not going to always be 100% certain. You see, I was the type of guy who would go into the refrigerator trying to figure out what I'm going to eat for lunch or for dinner or whatever it was. And I would open the door, I would look inside, I would close the door, and about 3 seconds later, I would open the door again and look to see what was there and close the door and open it again. And I would go into this routine, and it was crazy. I could not decide what I wanted to eat. And one of the first places I tell people is that we have to understand what's a small decision and what's a big decision. And so many times people don't know the difference. So the way I frame it is like, if this decision is not going to matter in a month from now, so then like it's not a big decision and you should just more think about it, but then decide, don't waste your energy for it. Because we wake up every morning and we have a certain amount of energy in our gas tank. And the more we can focus on the decisions that really matter, so then the more energy we have to make those decisions. And we all know certain decisions that are in our lives that maybe we didn't make yet. But what ends up happening is that once we start thinking about it and once we don't make the decision, it ends up taking so much energy out of us. You wake up the next day and you think about just the idea of it and you're already like on a 50% because you're just so torn because you haven't been able to make that decision. So recognizing that is going to be huge when it comes to the decisions that we want to make. And saying that there's a difference between the small decisions and the big decisions is going to be important. Now we got to figure out, okay, so what about the big decisions? How are we supposed to think about it? And one of the cool things about decisions, big decisions, is that sometimes we are playing this game and we're getting so emotionally drained, but we have to realize that it's not always a bad versus a good decision. It could be two good decisions. We just want to know which one's better. So for example, if somebody's trying to figure out where they want to go post high school, what college they want to go to. So there's usually like two or three options and they're trying to figure out what they wanted to do. But guess what? Like there's not a bad one. They're both good. It's just like which one is better, right? That's what we're looking for. Like which one is the better decision? So if we can try to figure out which one's the better decision, that could be something that could be helpful. And a lot of times just giving ourselves the deadline, possibly speaking to somebody, that could be really helpful in terms of getting out what it is that you really want. But when it comes to decisions, I think the biggest thing is people they assume that they have to be 100% certain to whatever decision that they need to make. And I don't think that's true. Because I don't think we can really know what the right decision is until after the fact. And we all know that. Hindsight is 20/20. But what we do have to be 100% is we have to be 100% committed to the decision that we make. So even though the decisions that we have in front of us are going to be a 76 or 77% knowing whether it's the right decision or not the right decision, but what we have to do is we have to be 100% committed to the decision that we make. And yes, we can look back and we can try to figure out and get more information and update or pivot our goals or the decisions that we made, but recognizing that we're not going to be 100% certain, and that's okay. And there's no way for most decisions that we're not going to be 100% certain. And having that is going to be so helpful when it comes to decisions. We're just taking the pressure off ourselves. And recognizing when you do have a bigger decision, let's say it's who do I marry? Or maybe, I'm going to invest $1 million in this company. Do I invest it? Like I can make or I can lose? Like what's going to happen? And we have these bigger decisions. What is it that we should do? We should understand that it comes down to all these different ideas. So we're not going to be 100% sure. We're going to have to decide at the end of the day. We're going to have to be committed to whatever decision that we make. But recognizing if we could get the people in our lives, the support we have, whether it's teachers or friends or family or parents or coaches or therapists, whoever it is that you're going to get in your corner, not to give you the answer. And I warn people, if people start telling you what to do, don't listen to them. Don't listen to them. You want these people to show you insight, give you more information to have you decide. It was one of the first things that I had when I had one of my first mentors. He never told me what to do, and I was always so frustrated. I was like, tell me what to do. I'm coming to you. I need the answers. Just tell me what you want. What am I supposed to do with my life? Should I do this or should I do that? And he never told me. And I was so frustrated. But what I realized is that if he would tell me what to do and it would go wrong, who am I blaming? I'm blaming him. Whose life is it? It's my life. So I have to learn to decide. And so many of us love passing our decisions, the tough decisions, on somebody else because it's a lot easier. And we have to realize that if we can start to build this muscle, it's a muscle of decision making with the small things. So start with what you're eating for lunch and what you're eating for dinner and look to decide, then we can come back and we can start to move forward with the bigger decisions. And the last part about decision making, which is so key, is, for me personally, this was a huge line. Jim Rohn says this line: indecision is the thief of opportunity. Think about that. Indecision is the thief of opportunity. And if you could realize that so many times we are losing out because we're not making a decision, it's sometimes more important to make a decision as opposed to not make a decision. And by doing that, we can really move forward with the things that we want. So recognize the type of decision. At a certain point, we're going to have to decide. But realize, let's try to get all the information that we can. The last part, and the last idea that I want to talk about is relationships. Because I think as adults, and we're working with young adults, so whether they're teenagers or college kids, or yeshiva, seminary, wherever it is that they are, recognize that we all have the ability to have a relationship. And it's unfortunate because I'm currently working with somebody who recently just texted me a poem that she wants to send her mom. And I wanted to cry because it was so sad. She's crying out for her mom to reach out to her, crying out for somebody to listen. And we all have the ability. We all have that opportunity to reach out to people, whether it's our own kids or whether it's about other people who are going through certain things. But if we can reach out to them and we can have that dialogue, if we can just say, hey, I'm here for you whenever you're ready, it can really help so much. And we all know when we were younger, if we had that ability to have somebody that we could trust and we can go to her for advice and we could be that leader that we wish we had to somebody else, imagine what that would do for somebody. Just to have a line of communication, and some people, we're all figuring out our own stuff. We're all trying to figure out our own lives and we're all trying to figure out what it is that we can do. But guess what? If we don't lend out our hand, if we don't look to help other people, then it's not going to be something that we're going to be able to do. And we're not going to be able to open that opening that is so, it's craving. Parents think like kids don't want to talk to them. They are craving for that opportunity. They just don't want to be judged. They don't want to feel like everything they say you're going to say something back to them. Listen, ask questions. A great way to speak to them is ask open-ended questions. Not how was school. It's like, what did you do in school that was fun today? And the way you do it is you ask what questions. Start the question with what. That's the biggest trick. You want to get a kid to talk? Start with a what question. What was your favorite subject in school today? What happened on the bus today? And then it's not a yes or no. It's not a good or bad. It's I have to speak more. And then you can start to open it up a little bit and have that conversation. But be there for them when they're ready. And there's this mom that I know, because she was my mom. She told us as we got older that there was one thing that she always did with us, and she always found it that when it got late at night, we would always come over and try to speak to her, and she was exhausted. And what she always did was that she always gave us the time. And looking back at it, I noticed that because, it could have been 11, 12 o'clock at night and we're coming into her room and, she's about to go to sleep and all of a sudden, we want to start talking. And she said, we needed to talk. And that's when we were ready. And I see that now with my own son. I don't know if it happens to you, but when my son comes home from school, he does not want to talk about school. So I know that. So I'm not trying to push him and being annoying about it. But I know later on, an hour and a half after he's home, then I can start asking him questions and understanding that could be something that could be really important. So recognizing these different ideas, that working on our own skills is going to be important. Working on our own tools that we can start to use when things happen in our lives. So whether it's the confidence and we want to be really building the courage in order to build our confidence, whether it's going to be the decision making in terms of how we can make decisions and what is it we can do to make better decisions, and not even better decisions, but just decisions. How many decisions are we pushing off? And lastly, the relationships that we can have with different people, whether it's our own family or whether it's other people that we could be close to, nieces, nephews. Be there for other people. Have that ability to speak to other people. If you have any questions, you could put them down below. I'll be on for another minute or two. But that being said, last time I was on a live here on OKclarity, I gave out a pretty big significant discount. So if you are interested in finding out more about this next gen 8-week program that I have for young adults. Or if you're an adult and you're interested in hearing more about it, feel free to DM me. You can reach out to me. You can find me on the website. And we're going to do things a little bit differently. So we're going to be trying to get more creative with the payment plan. So it's not going to be heavily, worked on in the payments plan. So feel free to reach out if you do have any questions about that. I'd love to be able to tell you what we have going on. Some really, really cool stuff, a lot of great support, a lot of really cool ideas, and really help people just get the support that they need. We all can use the support. We can all use that help. And I just wish I could just share all these ideas with other people. Hopefully you're going to be coming on a bunch more lives. If you have any specific topics you would like me to speak about more in depth, feel free to let me know. That being said, I don't think we have any questions. So we're going to head off right now. Thank you everybody for joining. Really, we appreciate it, whether you're live or whether you are on the recording. Regardless, thank you so much, everybody. Have a great evening.